Hello ladies and gentlemen. Well, this will probably be my last video, and a heads up, I will not be doing anything tomorrow, mostly because my city, the place that I'm at, is wanting to remove the transmitter to update it so we can have less blackouts. I know that for some of you, blackouts is probably a rare phenomenon for you guys, and it doesn't really happen. But you know, whenever it gets raining or windy around here, we tend to get these blackouts, and it kind of, you know, really messes with our ability to, you know, freeze or fridge or stuff, or maybe even to eat. I know for the other you guys, especially in the red states, that this is a rare phenomenon, but for us, this is a common occurrence. So they're going to update it. It's going to be between 8:30 to 3:30, hopefully, and maybe less. And that's when my power is going to be out for that period of time, so I cannot do any reporting or anything of the sort while that is going on. And by the time I get my power back, it's already going to be too late for me to really do any kind of reporting or whatever, and so I will be skipping that day by not my own coalition, but by my actual county city. So, yeah, unfortunately. But without further ado, this is with Elon Musk now. Now, Elon Musk is absolutely destroying this BBC reporter because he's just asking questions, and the BBC reporter is like malfunctioning. His brain cannot literally function at all. It's NPC. This is where we talk about NPCs. You try to say anything that goes against the NPC's coding, they malfunction. They just repeat the same thing over and over again. They literally just have no thought for themselves. And it's hilarious to see this because Elon Musk destroys this person with just simply asking questions. Hilarious, really. Take a look at this.
Let me just add that, you know, we have spoken to people who have been sacked that used to be in content moderation, and we've spoken to people very recently who were involved in moderation, and they just say there's not enough people to police this stuff, particularly around hate speech in the company. Is that
what hate speech are you talking about? I mean, you use Twitter.
Right.
Do you see a rise in hate speech?
I mean,
but just a personal anecdote. Like, what do you? I don't.
Personally, for you, I would see I get more of that kind of content. Yeah, personally. But I'm not going to talk to the rest of for the rest of Twitter.
So you see more hate speech personally?
I would say I would see more hateful content in that.
Content you don't like or hateful? What do you mean to describe a hateful thing?
Yeah, I mean, you know, just content that will solicit a reaction, something that may include something that is slightly racist or slightly sexist, those kinds of things.
So you think if something is slightly sexist, it should be banned?
No,
is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying anything. I'm saying.
Well, I'm just curious. I'm trying to understand what you mean by hateful content, and I'm asking for specific examples. And you just said that if something is slightly sexist, that's hateful content. Does that mean that it should be banned?
Well, you've asked me whether my feed, whether it's got less or more. I'd say it's got slightly more.
That's why I'm asking for examples. Can you name one example?
I honestly don't use. Honestly, I
don't. You can't name a single example.
I'll tell you why. Because I don't actually use that for you feed anymore. Because I just don't particularly like it.
But you said
actually, a lot of people are quite similar. I only look at
hang on a second.
You
said you've seen more hateful content, but you can't name a single example, not even one.
I'm not sure I've used that feed for the last 3 or 4 weeks. And
then how did you see the hateful content?
Because I've been using Twitter since you've taken it over for the last 6 months.
Okay, so then you must have at some point seen for you hateful content. I'm asking for one example.
Right.
And you can't give a single one.
And I'm saying
then I say, sir, that you don't know what you're talking about.
Really?
Yes, because you can't give me a single example of hateful content, not even one tweet, and yet you claimed that the hateful content was high.
Well,
that's false.
No, what I claimed...
You just lied.
What I claimed was there are many organizations that say that kind of information is on the rise. Now, whether it has on my feed or not... Give me one example. I mean, right, and
literally
if you look at something
one.
like the Strategic Dialogue Institute in the UK, they will say that. So
look, people will say all sorts of nonsense. I'm literally asking for a single example, and you can't name one.
Right, and as I've already said, I don't use that feed. But
then how would you know that?
I don't think this is getting anywhere.
You literally said you experienced more hateful content, and then couldn't name a single example.
Right, and as I said,
that's absurd.
I haven't actually looked at that feed.
Then how would you know there's hateful content?
Because I'm saying that's what I saw a few weeks ago. I can't give you an exact example. Let's move on. We only have a certain amount of time.
Wow.
COVID misinformation. You
Amazing.
You changed the COVID misinformation
Has
rules.
BBC changed its COVID misinformation?
The BBC does not set the rules on Twitter, so I'm asking you.
No, I'm talking about the BBC's misinformation about COVID.
I'm literally asking you about, you changed the labels, the COVID misinformation labels. There used to be a policy, it then disappeared. Why do that?
Well, COVID is no longer an issue. Does the BBC hold itself at all responsible for misinformation regarding masking and side effects of vaccinations, and not reporting on that at all? And what about the fact that the BBC was put under pressure by the British government to change its editorial policy? Are you aware of that?
This is not an interview about the BBC.
Oh, you thought it wasn't?
I see now why you've done Twitter Spaces. I am not a representative of the BBC's editorial policy. I want to make that clear. Let's talk about something else. You want to talk about the BBC?
You too.
All right, let's talk about something else.
You weren't expecting that.
Let's talk about something else.
So yeah, as you see, they can't. When NPCs have to do this type of stuff, they just it reduces their programming. They can't do anything to say. It's just like when we have with the whole gender thing. Is when you say what is a woman, and they simply break down. They have they're not able to process what you just said, so they malfunction. This is this very similar thing that's happening here. Elon Musk is just simply asking questions that is not being addressed to them, or they can't, or they're not in their own bubble, and they simply malfunction. This happens a lot. Even when you go against some of these people far leftists, or even people of the other side, when you ask things or put out statistics or whatever, they either end up attacking you, which is what happened to me, or they start yelling or be aggressive or whatever. In this case, this man is not being aggressive. He's just literally breaking down. He's literally malfunctioning. He cannot be able to do anything. And this is the reality of all of this. So, also, one last thing as well is that we have NPR is quitting Twitter. And it says that NPR quitting Twitter over government-funded label and says it won't be back anytime soon. National Public Radio is quitting Twitter after the social media platform owned by Elon Musk stamped NPR's main account with labels the news organizations are meant to undermine its credibility. NPR's organizational accounts will no longer be active on Twitter because the platform is taking actions that undermine our credibility by falsely implying that we are not editorially independent, NPR said in its statement Wednesday. Last week, Twitter labeled NPR's main account as state-affiliated media on the social media site, a label also used to identify media outlets that are controlled or heavily influenced by authoritarian governments. Twitter later changed the label to a government-funded media and gave it to at least one other public news organization, the BBC. We are not quitting our journalism on platforms that have demonstrated an interest in undermining our credibility and the public's understanding of our editorial independence, NPR's statement said. NPR's main account had not tweeted since April 4th. On Wednesday, it sent a series of tweets listing other places to find its journalism. The company said NPR journalists, employees, and member stations can decide on their own if they want to keep using the platform. NPR's Chief Communications Officer Isabel Lara said in an email that NPR journalists and employees would decide on their own if they wish to remain on the platform. Same for NPR member stations as they independently owned and operated. NPR does receive U.S. government funding through grants from federal agencies and departments along with Corporation for Public Broadcasting. The company said it accounts for less than 1% of NPR's annual operating budget. Twitter's new labels have often appeared arbitrarily assigned. It cat NPR with the state-affiliated label after Musk participated in a public conversation about NPR on Twitter and then deleted mention of NPR, but left up BBC on a webpage where it described why they should not get that label. Since then, it has given NPR, BBC, and some other groups a government-funded label, but hasn't done the same for many other public media outlets, such as the counterparts in Canada and Australia. In an interview Tuesday with a BBC technology reporter at Twitter's San Francisco headquarters, Musk acknowledged that the British news organization is not thrilled about the state-affiliated labels, asked the reporter for feedback. Our goal is simply to be as truthful and accurate as possible, Musk said. So I think we're adjusting the label to be publicly funded, which I think is perhaps too adjustable. We're trying to be accurate. Which I think I ought to disagree with Elon Musk here. They are... Regardless of whatnot, NPR has lied and has done a lot of authoritarian shit, has really advocated for transgenderism and a lot of this stuff, and they've done a lot of this stuff. So I'm not really surprised that this is. Good job on Elon Musk. I know Twitter's not perfect. I know it's not the greatest thing on the planet. It's still cancer. It's still AIDS. But at least Elon Musk is doing some good benefits to help fight against the authoritarian bullshit. Alright? That's it for the video, guys. Like, subscribe, share, and as always, take care.